Okay, so now I am ready to start shading my value sphere. So I've got something to use as eraser guard, something to soften with. I've got my two erasers and set those to the side. I've got my pencils nice and sharpened. I know that I don't need these numbers on here, so I'm going to go in and take those off. Kind of clean this up just a little bit. So this is where my lightest values will be, okay? And this is going to be close to where my highlight is going to be. I have to put the value there, though, to make the highlight. And I also want to make a curved surface. So I'm going to be using a lot of cross contour lines. All right, this is my 2H. I'm going to start with 2H here, and I'm going to start shading with the side, because I need to have some light value in here. And a lot of times with value like this, I will go ahead and put a little bit of light on here, value more than I need, because I can take it away with a tissue. I can also take it away with my kneaded rubber eraser. So you'll notice I'm doing cross contour lines that are actually cross hatching, bringing in all that good stuff we learned in the last unit. It is going to get slightly darker, closer to that core shadow, slightly. Remember, this is a white object on a white surface, but it still has to have shadows. So I'm going to bring this up so you can see my lines. So the best way to get rid of some of those lines is, of course, to use your tissue. Don't forget, this does pull graphite off, so you're pulling off some of the values, which is really what we want to do anyway. So I'm softening the values, and now look at how nice that is there, because to be able to get this 0 value in here, I've got to have I've got to have some value there first, okay? All right, so there we go. That guy's ready to go. I'm going to switch up now to my HB, my next darkest pencil, and I'm going to start working towards the core shadow. And it's really dark here because this is like the dark side of the sphere. And I want that, I do want this core shadow to kind of disappear. So you'll notice I'm going over the core shadow just a little bit. Remember, this is going to be the darkest part. I haven't switched for my HB. So this was 2H, this is HB. And if you think about this is the sun, this is the dark side of the moon, because this is where no light gets. So it is going to be fairly dark. But remember, we're using HB, so it can only get so dark. So this area down here, I've been kind of leaving it alone. I do want it to appear lighter because this is going to be the bounce back. So the light hits here and bounces back on the back side. That's what makes it a rounded form. So I'll use my tissue and come in and kind of soften some of these. And I'm just dragging a little bit of that value down into the reflected light that's down here. Okay, looking good, right? Next step, I have to do my cast shadow. This is the occlusion shadow, which is closest to it. If I want the object to sit on a piece of paper, it needs to be darkest here. That is where the dark shadow is. That's the occlusion. Then the rest of this will be cast. I'm going to use the 4B for this. Now, this was a rounded object. This is a flat object, so my lines will change. That's when having a nice eraser comes in handy, so you get the edge of a rounded object like that. Okay. And now I'm going to use my 4B and really come in and make this a darker circle underneath there and clean it up and make sure that I've got a circular shape. And you'll notice I'm using the shadow to keep that sphere in line. Okay, so now I'm ready to come in with my softener, and I'm just going to soften out my shadow just a little bit. Okay, so here's the trick with a shadow. A shadow also has a bounce back of reflected light. So down in this part of the shadow here, I want to soften the edges because the shadow usually is really soft if the light's that far away. But in here, I need to pull back a little bit of value because the shadow is usually a little bit lighter right there. So shadows usually are not all one value. And that's why these things are great, because I can shape them into any shape that I want and kind of sculpt away the graphite with it. Okay, now if I left it like that, it would look wonky. So then I'm going to come back and look at how much graphite I have here. And soften that shadow. Next step, tabletop, then background. So for my tabletop, the light's going to be, it's really going to be white here. It's white here, and then it's going to get a little darker as it falls off away from here. So I'm just going to make the edge of my object. I'm going to clean that up, and I need to use my 2H. Alright, so I'm going to have it really light here, but then it starts to get a little bit of value as it falls away, especially over here. So on a value scale, like here would be my 0, this will go 1, 2s, and 3s, but down here I'm also almost a 0 right in front of it, but then the light wouldn't catch it over here, and I'd be like a 1. But definitely over here you'd have light, or dark, shadow. Use the edge of the point of my pencil, kind of clean up the side here. Soften up these values just a little bit. The last part is going to be negative space. The negative space, I'm going to use the ebony and I'm going to scumble, okay? So you have to be, first thing you want to do is kind of make an outline around it. So it gets that shape back. Now if I'm going to draw up in here, I want to cover up my sphere so I don't mess it up. Or you can just turn your paper this way, and that would work too, okay? I am going to put a kind of this here so that I can keep my values, my light values, from getting anything on them. And here's where you start that scumble. Careful when you get close to the edge of your sphere. So if our light's coming from here, light will bounce back from the white object into the background, even though it is kind of like a really dark area. So that's something that we're going to hit with the eraser to finish up, but it would be even darker back over here. So just like we did in our exercises, I'm going to use the point of my ebony to really darken this scumble up. And now I have these here sitting on a white surface.